Assalamu alaikum. My name is HUSSAINABBAS HAMIR. I am reciting Surah Al-Sam. This is the 91st of the Holy Quran. And it was revealed in Mecca. It has 15 verses. Sam means the sun. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Abbas, 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 तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए अब्बास तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए अब्बास तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए जब शाम सहर फातिमा ज़हरा तुझे रोए अब्बास तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए अब्बास तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए दुरालिए पहरे पे सितमगार करा है दुरालिए पहरे पे सितमगार करा है कैसे तेरे लाशे पे सकीना तुझे रोए अब्बास तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए अब्बास तेरा हक है ज़माना तुझे रोए सजदे के लिए जब लिया हाथों का सहारा सजदे के लिए जब लिया हाथों का सहारा
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Here we are, it's the fourth night of Muharram. We're getting into the swing of things. We've been here commemorating Imam Hussein for 4 nights. And today we had a different question, which we wanted to run by you guys. And I wanted to ask AZRA auntie. So we know the story of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Hussein's brother, where he allowed Muawiyah he made peace with him. So the question is, why didn't Imam Hussein alayhi salam do the same thing with Yazid? Obviously we know how it turned out in such a tragic way. Why wasn't it that Imam Hussein made peace with Yazid? What do you think?
We have to remember, right, that each person is made for a different time. And the challenges and the people that we're going to face are going to be different. And so we need to respond appropriately. Now the important thing is, though, is that our principles, our beliefs and our morals are always the same. So for example, we all know that no matter how bad things get, we should always respond or treat people with kindness. That remains the same all the time. Like till the very end, Imam was always concerned for the welfare of others, even if they were enemy soldiers who were similarly beginning to be thirsty, they would be offered water. Can you imagine having that level of kindness in your heart? I don't know about you, when people are mean to me or rude or something, it's like a little switch gets flicked and your immediate reaction is not usually one of kindness, right? Like as human beings, it's actually really tricky to stop, take a deep breath and remember what you believe in and what is the right response, the right thing to do, which is always kindness. So yeah, we might think, well, why wasn't Imam Hussein just accepting and peaceful and laying back and kind of trying to make peace like Imam Hassan? But the time that he was in was different.
Right.
The level of corruption, the level of evil and meanness was like a whole different level of mean and evil, right?
Definitely, yeah. We know that at the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he made peace with Muawiyah, who although he was a bad person, he wasn't planning to, or he wasn't openly planning to destroy Islam. Whereas the way Yazid was at the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we know that he was openly disregarding the rules of Islam. He was drinking and doing all of these other bad things, while saying that he's the leader of Muslims. So to give bay'ah to someone like that, it wouldn't have been the right thing to do. It wouldn't have been possible to keep Islam and allow Islam to continue to get to us and give bay'ah to him. It wouldn't have been possible to do that and for Islam to still exist, right?
Absolutely.
So in that moment, you're so right. He did the right thing. He tried as much as he could to make peace. We know that he never fired the first shot. We know that he kept talking to them. We have, like in books, we have written down the actual speeches he gave along the way, telling people, I'm the son of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. I'm the grandson of the Prophet. Just think about what you're doing. Just remind people, trying to switch that switch on inside of them, that good switch, that you know what you're doing is wrong. Come and join me, come. He kept calling them, he kept trying to find peace. Even like you said, when people were being very mean to him, right till the end, he was treating it with kindness. And I think that's a huge lesson that we can learn from Imam Hussein and from Karbala, is to treat evil with kindness.
Absolutely. I think perhaps we're just focusing a lot on, of course, and rightly so, the extreme tragedy and battle and atrocities that happened on that 10th day. But leading up to that, he diverted his whole plan, remember? He was going on this most beautiful journey of Umrah with his family and friends, but he knew that if they stayed there, there'd be bloodshed, and he wanted to be peaceful. So he tried to leave that situation. Like, how many times if you're like bickering with your brother or sister or something, and your parents might come and try to separate you so that you're, trying to diffuse the situation. He did that all along the way, tried to diffuse things, tried to speak to them calmly, kindly, rationally, try and have them understand right from wrong. He was always trying his best, always, never ever gave up. So perhaps we've missed all of that happened before the end battle, which, as you said, let's not forget, he never threw the first punch. He never hit with the sword first. It was always just in defense of his faith and of his friends and family. We really need to remember that.
Definitely. I think it's really hard when somebody is being mean to you in our own lives, or when someone is doing something which is not a nice thing, to not react in the same way. Now, obviously, there is a beauty in standing up for yourself and in holding your own space that way, but to be kind to somebody when they're being mean to you is something that Ahlul Bayt always practiced. We have this story, we have so many stories. So we have the story, for example, of when Imam Hassan alayhi salam came, there was a man who came from another city, and he had heard bad things about Imam Hassan's dad, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he was literally just talking badly about Imam Hassan's father, Imam Ali, to him. And instead of, I mean, the minimum in that scenario, the least I would have said is, why don't you take a second and think about what you're saying, because you clearly got it wrong. He shows me how to act. He said, you know what, I think you might be from out of town. Do you want some food? I can give you some food. Do you have a place to stay? Let me give you a place to stay. He acted with so much kindness that that person would be thinking that if this is the son of the man that I'm talking about, then how beautiful must that man have been? And we have the story about the woman in the rubbish, Prophet Muhammad's story.
Story that we all know, right? Such beautiful stories, alhamdulillah. You guys all know that story. She threw rubbish relentlessly on Rasulullah day after day after day, and he patiently just walked through. The day that she did not throw that rubbish, he didn't say, yay, hip hip hooray, alhamdulillah, no rubbish on my head. He actually became concerned for that lady and went to check on her. Hands up, honestly guys. How many of you would do that if you were in that situation? Yeah, let's be real for a moment. It's actually really difficult. And you know, another thing really important to remember is you might think, oh gosh, you know, compared to what Imam did, just being kind is just a small tiny act, just a small tiny thing, like what difference does it make? Well, there's that story of the lizard and the fire right at the time of Prophet Ibrahim. When he was going to be thrown into that ginormous fire, it was such a huge fire, people could feel the heat from kilometers away. And the animals and people were all gathered around to see what was going to happen. And along comes the tiniest of lizards who spits on the fire, and the animals start making fun of him. Look at you, little lizard, what do you think you're doing spitting on this huge fire? And that lizard turns to the animals and confidently says, when Allah asks me, what did you do when Prophet Ibrahim was threatened with such horrible situation? I can say, I tried my best to defend what was right. So these small akhlaq, these small acts, even if it's something like just being kind when someone is mean to you, is actually a really big deal in the eyes of Allah. All of this that we're doing, we're gathering, listening, making promises and acting, is to try and better ourselves so we're ready for Imam when he finally comes. So having kindness as your gut reaction is the perfect way of purifying your soul and being ready as a soldier of Imam, inshallah.
So true, it's so true. I think we have to constantly, we've talked about this in the other lectures, we have to constantly remember who we are. First of all, that's what Muharram reminds us. We are Shia of Imam Ali. We are Shia of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. These stories, they're not just stories for us to hear and then leave. They're stories for us to learn how to be, how we actually are inside, how Allah made us. Allah made us, our fitrat, our part inside of us that tells us what's good. That part we have to listen to. We know what it is to be kind. And we as Shias, when someone, however somebody else acts, we don't lower our standards. We know who we are and we know how to be kind. We just have to think, what would Bibi Fatima do in this situation? How would Imam Ali handle this situation?
Absolutely. It's like being in that room of darkness, right? All you can see in that moment is the rudeness or the evil or the meanness. But someone's got to turn that light on, right? Like Imam Hussein is described as being the ark of salvation, the lantern of guidance. Like, who wouldn't want to then follow that light? Everyone's going to be attracted to it. Maybe that can be you. Maybe you can turn that light on. Show everyone what it's like to be kind. And who knows what will be drawn to that light and that kindness.
Sometimes we don't realize the effect, how big an effect we can have with a small action, like you said. So sometimes something as simple as a smile. So you see somebody who looks a bit down and you just smile at them. That can change their entire day. We know sometimes that's changed our entire days. And also realizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like you said, He notices everything. He says it in the Quran, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. What is the reward for doing good except good? Imagine Allah doing good to you because you decided to be good to somebody who didn't technically deserve it. So just realizing that we have the power to control how we react to a situation. So we have a takeaway for you to try it out.
Absolutely. So listen guys, we know that we all run into people and Perhaps we have run-ins and people are a bit mean or say something that's annoying or frustrating or winds us up the wrong way.
Especially brothers and sisters.
And we will typically react with a little bit of anger or frustration back, right? Well, our challenge is that actually we'd like you to try and switch things up a little bit. So the next time you feel like reacting in anger or frustration, just hold that thought for a moment and react in kindness. Take a deep breath. Could be something as simple as smiling, saying something nice, saying a kind word.
The important thing is not just to not do anything. It's not enough to just be like, I'm not reacting. The important thing with this challenge is to try and purposely do something kind in that moment for that person. It's hard, but we think you can do it.
And we're going to try it too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see you tomorrow. Get working on that, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. No matter what trials I face, the memory won't be erased. Oh Father, the final embrace. No matter what trials I face, the memory won't be erased. The Father, the final embrace. In the desert where you would die, we cried in each other's arms. Forever we would be apart. My fate will be in the prison of Sham. We both will be blooded and bruised and buried without a shroud. The only difference is I will have no loved ones around. The dark and secluded jail is my ultimate resting place. Oh Father, the final embrace. No matter what trials I face, the memory won't be erased. Oh Father, the final embrace. I crawled on my hands and knees and clung onto your horse's hooves. I cried and I pleaded with him to stay still and not to move. Please don't take my father away. I can't sleep without his chest. He has been left alone. Please don't take him to his death. He is broken and wounded and thirsty for many days. Oh Father, the final embrace. No matter what trials I face, the memory won't be erased. Oh Father, the final embrace. Oh Father, the final embrace. Salawat. Allah.